like that, we're back. The short wait, well, it wasn't a long wait. It felt like we were just together just weeks ago, but we're about to start that Premier League marathon all over again. Welcome to EPL Insights for Gameweek 1 of the Premier League season. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you. We're excited to get this going. If you haven't checked out our previous podcast, we did it last week. All of our future plays are considered there. Please have a listen to wherever you get your Pinnacle podcast from. And this season will be powered by the stats courtesy of Understat. So you can head there as well to figure out and just to take a look at the data that we use to make our decisions on a weekly basis. Jake, are you ready to get going here? Because I'm looking at this week's slate. On Pinnacle, there's been plenty of line movement here over the course of the week, and there'll continue to be up until kickoff on Friday afternoon, a full slate on Saturday, Sunday, and even a Monday match to consider as well.
Yes, I guess 4 days of back-to-back football is not bad really when you've come off a summer with very little in the men's game. So yeah, looking forward to it. I did find the slate a little bit tricky to kind of find much value. It's always difficult early on in the season, especially game week 1, because we've got obviously data from the previous season to go off, but there's so many managerial personnel changes. The way we might project teams might be different, so it's always a bit of a minefield trying to find. Especially, I usually go up until maybe game week 6 or game week 7, where you've got a bit of a grasp on what the eye test's telling you, but also what the data's telling you. And at this moment in time, we're using probably 70% data and eye test, and then 30% kind of hunch / guesswork. So it's always going to be tricky at the start, but there's a couple of plays I like, and like you said, there's been some early money as well for the plays that I like, and generally, I know that's moved some of the lines and the prices, but it shows that we're on the right lines. There's quite a few people thinking the same way for the lines to move and for the prices to move.
Just to clarify, that's not an excuse, courtesy of Jake Osgathorpe. It's just a little bit of honesty in what we're facing this week. I know that a lot of bettors are excited to get going this weekend, but hopefully some of the tips and things that we provide over this podcast today can put you in good stead heading into the weekend. We will be bringing back some of the features of our podcast from last season. Each week we'll go through our feature 5 games that we're going to put more in the spotlight than the other 5, which will be picks and some thoughts about those will be provided within our rapid fire segment. We'll be providing a value play of the weekend. And an important addition to this podcast as well, instead of us bragging every week about how well we've done with our picks and how much profit we make, we're actually going to be keeping track, so you can keep track along with us over the course of the season. We should have started that last season, because I would have put that poster right on my wall, Jay. It was a banner year last year, and we hope that the same outcomes come our way in 2023, 2024.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I would have had a banner in front of one of those pictures instead, because from about game week 11 onwards, it was just pure fire right through to the end of the season. So hopefully we can pick up where we left off, I think there's enough good angles to get us started this week. Okay,
so let's dig into it. And before we get into the specific games, the Community Shield's in the rearview mirror. I really don't have anything to add on it. I'm not sure if you do at all, or anything that you've seen pre-season. And you mentioned maybe how tricky it is game week 1 of the Premier League season. Are there some trends or things that you have seen that kind of go into the way that you're approaching game week 1?
Not particularly, no, because every start of a new season is kind of equally as unpredictable. I think one of the things that we can kind of at least pin our hats on is the fact that generally the newly promoted teams kind of perform pretty well through the first. Well, some of them can perform well through the first 19 games, basically, like Fulham did last season. And that's just because there's a bit of an unknown about them, really, in terms of in what the Premier League are going to expect. And then ultimately that kind of catches up with them. They drop like a stone at the end. But given the teams that have come up this time around, there's only Burnley, really, that I can imagine that would perhaps take quite a few early scalps and make a few upsets early on. Sheffield United, I called them a basket case club the other day because I'm from Sheffield. They've called Sheffield Wednesday a basket case club for years, and yes, we still are one as well. But yeah, they've got some serious issues selling the best players without replacing them, and obviously Luton are going to be playing they are effectively the David, aren't they, in the Goliath? So it's always tricky. The managerial stuff is difficult to kind of get a gauge on how that's going to affect things in a positive or a negative manner. I think one thing we can definitely kind of lean on is styles of play nowadays with managers. They don't change in terms of if they stick to principles now. So if you know that a manager has played in a certain way at a different club, it's extremely likely he's going to bring that kind of style and those systems to the new club, no matter who the players are, just because managers are built like that nowadays. And we can probably get some early value in certain markets is what I'm looking at anyway. Similar to the Roberto De Zerbi bump that we got last year, because anyone who watched his Sassuolo team just knew how attack minded they were and how just all out gung ho kind of football they were playing. So goals were going to flow, and we kept getting some really good prices for goals, didn't we? So those kind of things is what I'm looking at, mainly for Tottenham and potentially Bournemouth, not to kind of spoil the selections in the pod, but those are the kind of things I'm looking at keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I still feel that Brighton's a little bit undervalued, specifically for their attacking play in the markets. We'll get into that. For context, last season, you mentioned the promoted clubs. Last season, the first game week of the season, a win, a loss, and a draw. Bournemouth beat Villa 2-0 at home. Fulham drew Liverpool 2-2. And Forest lost away 2-0 at Newcastle. Also interesting to point out, there was only one team that scored more than 2 goals in the first game week of last season. That was Spurs beating Southampton by a 4-1 final. So that's some of the context heading into this game week. Are you ready to dig into our first feature 5 of the new season?
Yeah, let's fly through it.
Let's do it, and let's start off with the Friday night fixture. It's Burnley and Manchester City played at 8 p.m. local time. Burnley won the championship, 101 points last season. That was 10 points better than Sheffield United, who came second. Vincent Kompany's a manager, back now competing as a manager against his former Man City side, and Burnley back in the Premier League after a year away. I think they've been pretty shrewd in the transfer market as well, bringing the goalkeeper from Man City, young James Trafford. We'll see how he fares. Redmond comes back in the Premier League. Bayer from Borussia Gladbach. Zeki Amdouni, they're going to rely on him up top. $15.6 million from Basel. And I should mention Luca Koleosho, Canadian eligible, by the way, international player, signed player for the future, really, from Espanyol. Out, Ashley Barnes is out. Nathan Tella was great last season, scored 17 goals, but Southampton have brought him back as he was just a player on loan. Their XG last season, 29.1, was second best in that category too. Sheffield United in terms of the league championship. Obafemi is out. He's got a hamstring issue. Can be an effective player for this team. At home last season, there were 16-6 and just one loss. 54 points was the most at home, and just a 16.4 expected goals against at home in 23 home games. So they're a good team playing at Turf Moor last season. Man City, what a season. Champions of the Premier League, treble winners, 89 points, 5 better than Arsenal, 94 goals scored. They conceded 33, which was tied for the best in the Premier League. The best expected goals, the best expected goals against. They were an absolute dynamo last season. 11-4-4 away from home, 37 points. Just 2 less than Arsenal away from home. But they had the best XG and the best expected goals against away from home, and the most expected points away from home as well. They bring in Vardiol, they bring in Kovacic, 2 Croatians to strengthen the side, Mahrez and Gundogan. And it seems like they're still trying to move for another midfielder in the market. Looks like Walker's going to stay, but the 2 Croatians, we'll see. Kovacic probably more ready to go than Vardiol at this point. Ake, the only really fitness concern this weekend, not 100% fit. And something to keep in mind, they do play in the Super Cup against Sevilla this coming Wednesday. Head-to-head, City have won the last 11 meetings between them and Burnley, and they haven't lost in their last 16. And Burnley, no clean sheet, by the way, in their last 16 games they played City. City, no goals conceded in their last 7. They've been the first to score in their last 10 games, and the first half winner in 8 of 8. They beat Burnley. They played in the FA Cup last season. It was a 6-0 final, and they beat them 2-0 twice in the 2021-2022 season. As for the odds on Pinnacle, Burnley, you can play them to win outright at plus 901. The draw plays at plus 504. City victory minus 328. The total set at 3. The over minus 101. The under minus 112. And the handicap is set at a goal and a half. So what do you think here? City to kick off their new campaign and where they are prohibitive favorites to go on and win the Premier League again. What do you make? Could this be a little bit of a tricky first game for them to play, playing a promoted side with a lot of familiarity between the setups of both teams?
Yeah, I'm fully expecting City to win. I don't think it'll be too comfortable. I don't think it. I think Burnley have shown us plenty to suggest that they can play this fairly close, especially at home. But I struggled to find a play that I liked in this game, to be honest. I think Burnley are going to be one of those teams that will, like I said, cause a few upsets throughout the season. I think they'll beat teams that are worse than them in terms of teams we expect to be relegated. But I think they could be one of the teams a little bit. They're not quite Leeds-esque under Bielsa, but a little bit like that because they take so many risks and play in such a brave manner that up against the better teams they could, get found out, get punished a lot more than when playing against the lesser lights. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was a 1-0 City win. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 4 or 5-0. And either way, it wouldn't really change my opinion on Burnley and the fact that I think they'll be absolutely fine and that City are probably, they are the team to beat in the title race. So, I was quite happy to just leave this alone and have a bit of a no bet to start off.
Yeah, I hate to be boring and predictable, and I hate to follow your lead out of the gate here in the season. I did have a slight lean to the under minus 112 because of the fixtures. It's going to be a busy start to the season. City did go to West Ham and beat them 2-0 to start the last season. City went to 0. I think Burnley's going to be up for this. This could be like really one of those games out of the gate. Burnley back in the Premier League. I think there might be some emotion to it. So I do have a lean at the under 3 as the total at minus 112. Actually, you know what? I'll make a full play here. I circled it. You were trying to convince me otherwise not to make a play. I'm not going to fall for it early. Under the total of 3. If it's 3 goals flush on, then it's a push. I'm okay with that. I can't see it being that free-flowing of a game. So let's go under 3 at minus 112. There you go, cool. Jake. I'm going to step up and make an early play.
I feel like I've kind of, just led you into a play you probably didn't want to make there. But what's your stake on that?
It's a spite play, by the way. It's gonna be a half play. It's not gonna be a
half unit.
Half unit at minus 112.
Nice.
Under 3. I guess we're free to move on to the next game. It's Arsenal and Nottingham Forest, 12:30 local time, the early match on Saturday. Arsenal second place last season, but the way they ended the year wasn't great. 3-3-3 in their last 9. But it's a statement of intent, bringing in Rice, Timber, Havertz, David Raya as at least the backup goalkeeper for now. Can he supplant Aaron Ramsdale? We'll see what that looks like. Granit Xhaka, the most notable player to leave Arsenal this summer. 84 points last season, 9 points better than third place Manchester United. 88 goals, but their XG was just 76.5 according to Understat. So that made them the second biggest overachiever in terms of actual goals scored versus XG. Second to Spurs. They did have the third best expected goals against overall. They were 14-3-2 at home last season, an 8-goal difference between, once again, their actual goals and their XG. So they overachieved at home. Jesus is out. His knee is bothering him. He's out. Zinchenko has a muscular issue, and he is out as well. Forest survived last season despite all the change. They brought in, 28 players during the season, and they managed to finish 16th place. Look, they picked up 38 points in the end. Keylor Navas was massive, bringing in the goalkeeper on loan. And they picked up 2 wins and 2 draws in their last 4 games, and that was key to survival. They were the worst away side in the Premier League last season, just 8 points and 1 win overall. 11 goals scored away from home and 44 conceded. Incredible. They were bottom 4 overall in XG and expected goals against last season as well. Hasn't been a great summer. It's been quiet, especially for Forest. Anthony Elanga's come in. Wood has made his move permanent. Matt Turner, the goalkeeper, is on his way, and that's about it. Ayew, Lingard, Surridge, a bunch of players have left. It's more the players that have left on loan Like Dean Henderson's gone back to Manchester United. Navas is gone. Brendan Lodi is gone. All those players on loan have left, and that'll make the most notable difference in the side. Head to head, Forest actually beat Arsenal in the third to final game last season. It was a 1-0 final, and Arsenal smashed Forest 5-0 at home in this fixture last season. As for the odds on Pinnacle, an Arsenal win minus 533, the draw plus 681. The Forest win has moved out from 1227 to plus 1418. The handicap is set at 2, minus 112 for Arsenal to cover, minus 100 for Forest to cover. The total, it's a big total as well, set at 3.25, the over at minus 118, the under at plus 103. What do you make of this? Big expectations around Arsenal, probably not so much for Forest heading into this new campaign.
Yeah, exactly that. And I kind of agree with the market in terms of the kind of supremacy that they're expecting with the handicap at minus 2. I'm going to back them at minus 2, Arsenal. But yeah, the price I got minus 112. It's just tightened a little bit to minus 111. I think this is a cracking bet. I'm going to put 1 unit on this. The Arsenal were very impressive at home last season. Won 14, lost just twice, as you mentioned. But interestingly, they won by 2 or more in 9 of those 14. But if you take teams that finish in the bottom half, they actually won by 2 or more in 8 of 10. So this is a bet that basically, at least pushed in 8 of 10 matches against teams in the bottom half. And I fully expect Forest to be in the bottom half yet again. And as you mentioned, the worst travellers last season with just a horrific record. They generated just 0.8 expected goals for per game. Failed to score in 5 of their last 6 friendlies as well. So they're not exactly coming into the season on cracking form. And, friendlies we take with a pinch of salt. But generally, friendlies are a bit like a free-for-all, aren't they? Like, even Sheffield Wednesday managed to score in a few friendlies. It's like, that does not fill me with much confidence at all for Forest and their attacking output, especially heading to the Emirates in what is a very, very tough opening game. So, minus 2 on the Asian handicaps. It's a push if they Arsenal win by 2 goals. It's a full win if they win by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know. It could be anything really.
Could be. There's a no bet for me, however. I look at this. I was tempted for the under, maybe, perhaps, if it moves to 3.5. That's a bet I'm going to have to make. I don't like Forest heading into this season, although I do like some of their players. Johnson had a good year. Gibbs White, obviously, some talent. He's dealing with a little bit of a knock as well, but I have no faith in this Forest team. I have them going down this season. Very hard for me to bet them, but I told you last week I'm going to be fading Arsenal here to the gate. I think that the market is too heavily in their favor. I don't know how much they're improved. The fact that Jesus is out to start the season, I don't think that that's a good omen on them. Big pressure on players like Martinelli to take their game forward this season. Looks like a player like Trossard, who came on and made a difference in the Community Shield, can be much more effective. But where's the attack from wide areas? It's certainly not coming from the fullback. So it's interesting how they're built and constructed. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I just think the hype is a little bit too sided behind Arsenal on this one. So I'm just going to stay away from this one entirely and not make a play for this one and just see how it plays out.
Fair enough.
Brighton and Luton as we move forward. Luton Town in the Premier League. Brighton's a team I'm exceptionally high on entering this season. Finished 6th place on 62 points last season. Graham Potter went out and De Zerbi came in, and it just got better and better as the season went on. They had the 3rd best overall expected goals. 72 goals scored, by the way, on the season for Brighton, and the 4th best expected goals against last season as well. They've lost Alexis McAllister, Sanchez, the goalkeeper, who was kind of replaced by Steele at the end of the season anyways. He goes out. Undav has gone out on loan. But the Inns, I just love their transfer movement. I think it's really, really smart stuff. Verbruggen comes in as the new goalkeeper. Dahoud, good player. Igor, the center back. João Pedro, exciting attacking player. James Milner, from experience and stability. It's a group of young stars with the likes of Matoma, Caicedo still there. And we're not sure what it's going to look like him playing this weekend or him staying, but for the time being he's still at Brighton. And Ciso, Ferguson, and Stupinian, Bonanote, they're a team with so much exciting young talent, and add these players they brought in. And Adingra's come back off of loan. He's 21 years old, and he can maybe add something more up top alongside Ferguson and Welbeck. There's some real good options for an attack-minded side. They only had the best ninth, or the ninth best home record on the season last year, and 34 points. It's the one area. If Brighton improves, then look out. For Luton Town, what a story! They finished third in the league championship, but qualified for the Premier League, or got promotion to the Premier League, I should say, by winning the playoff over Coventry City. 80 points last season. They scored the ninth most goals, however, in the league championship, but it was their defensive record that pushed them through, the third best defensive record in the championship. There were sixth in expected goal differential as well in the league championship at plus 14.5. The last time they were in the top division of English football was back in 1982. But they've lost a little something at the back. Ethan Horvath was great, the American goalkeeper. He's gone back to Forest off his loan. And they brought in a bunch of, like, what would I call them, like league championship caliber players or talents that maybe can come good in terms of their transfer dealings. I think it's been smart. Their manager, Rob Edwards, was supposed to be the man that brought Watford to the Premier League. Instead, Nathan Jones goes to Southampton. Edwards slides in after being sacked by Watford, because that's what they do at that club, sack their managers, and ends up in Luton Town and works miracles. Carlton Morris scored 20 goals last season, and we'll see what he can do stepping up a level. Head-to-head, Luton Town, no losses in their last three against Brighton, but the last time they played was 2016. The odds, Brighton to win, minus 302. The draw, plus 463. A Luton Town victory way out at plus 870. The handicap set at 1.5 goals, and the total is set at 3. What do you make of this one? I mean, it's going to be an emotional time for Luton Town. I'd probably be more likely to put a Luton Town bet forward if they're playing at home. They're not. They're going to the Amex. I think it's going to be a very difficult day for the newly promoted side.
Very difficult, yeah. I don't think we do Brighton justice, to be honest, on just how good they are, not only on the field but also off the field. I mean, some of the business that they've done, losing McAllister would be, a huge blow to any team. But they brought in Mahmoud Dahoud, who I think is a ready-made replacement. He's brilliant at progressing the ball. He's going to be a great signing. And like you said, the other guys they brought in, João Pedro definitely strengthens the team. And they're looking at a couple of others as well that would strengthen the starting 11. They're not resting on the laurels, Brighton. And they are one team that if they go out and sign a player, I always take note. They know something that other people don't, basically. So yeah, I think the only issue Brighton had under Graham Potter, not issue, but the way they fell down was in these types of games. They really struggled against teams they should beat, especially at home, just purely because the ball movement and the pace of the play was so slow under Potter. It was very laborious. It was very, a little bit too controlled. Whereas De Zerbi's come in and kind of ripped that up completely, and he's kind of built on what Potter's set up, but doing it in a much more, smash, bang, wallop kind of way, where it is get the ball forward quickly. Everything's done at a very high pace, and that is exactly how you need to play if you're to beat a team that's expected to just turn up and sit deep and try and counter-attack. And I think that's what Luton will do. But yeah, I just think Brighton are going to have too much quality for them here. Trying to find a play was interesting in terms of what to get involved in. Was it the handicap or was it the goal line? But I just thought, the goal line set at 3.
Yeah.
I know Brighton are a team that will score a lot of goals this season, but I just think there's a little bit extra security for me in taking them on the handicap at minus 1.5, because I could easily see this being a 2-0 kind of game. I think Luton will not be one that will get absolutely hammered out the gate. But yeah, I don't really think they're going to contribute much to the scoring either. So yeah, Brighton minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap. It's going to be another 1-unit play for me at minus 105. They're just so good. I mean, if you want any more data stuff, since De Zerbi took over, they were the third best attacking team in the league behind City and Liverpool on expected goals. They racked up the second most expected points after De Zerbi took charge, just to, again, highlight the kind of levels that they're putting up.
I have the exact same bet. Brighton on the handicap, minus 1.5 at minus 105. I was tempted to make a play on the total. I was really tempted to make a play on the Brighton goal total of 2.5 at plus 136. Because if they score two, why couldn't it be three or four? Just the way that this team plays and attacks. And I have way more questions about the way Luton are going to approach this and how they're going to fare rather than questions about Brighton here. So plus 136 over 2.5. Again, because it's the first week. If this was week 3, 4, 5, I'm making that play because it's the first week of the season. I think the handicap is the smart play, especially at minus 105. I'll make a full play there as well. Follow your lead. Or you're following mine. You just batted lead off here. But Brighton on the handicap, we're both on it. All right, yeah. Good. Anything else? We're both big fans of Brighton. And by the way, there was plenty of response to one of our posts that we put up on Pinnacle. Brighton fans pessimistic about their approach to the season. Playing European football, saying they'd be happy if they finish in the top 10. I just don't see it. I just think that this is a team that can push on and potentially do something special here over the course of the season. Top 4. I think that they can push into the top 4, perhaps a little bit of a reach, but something similar to last season. I think it could be in the cards. Absolutely, I wouldn't rule it out. So that's my approach to Brighton this season.
They're here to stay, ultimately.
Yeah.
And for at least as long as Roberto De Zerbi's there. I've no doubt that they've already got another sensational manager lined up just in case he does get picked off. But yeah, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to be an absolute thorn in the sides of the big spending competitors.
Let's move on to the late game on Saturday. Should be a really good one as well. 5:30 p.m. kickoff. It's Newcastle at Aston Villa. Newcastle from 11th place 2 seasons ago to a top 4 finish this season. They went from 49 points to 71 points in one season. It's not just a takeover. Eddie Howe's done a great job. And it's a team, I don't think, full of star power, but it's Howe's hard workers that continue to get the job done. 4 points better than Liverpool for a top 4 spot last season. They were 4th best in expected goals, 2nd best in expected goals against, 33 goals against, tied for the fewest with Man City last season. And they underachieved in front of goal last season, scoring almost 9 goals less than what their XG actually stated. So they could be a whole lot better, could have been a whole lot better than they actually were. Only 2 losses at home last season, had the best XG playing at St. James's Park as well. 14 goals against, that's it in 19 home games. Tonali comes in, Barnes comes into the team. St. Maximum, who when he was on was spectacular over recent seasons for Newcastle, but just completely unreliable in terms of availability and fitness. Fabian Schär, 50-50 to play this game this weekend. He's dealing with a thigh. Willock as well has a thigh injury. He, at least at the time of recording, is 50-50 to play as well. For Aston Villa, it was a case of Unai Emery to the rescue last season. Under Stevie G, just 12 points from their first 13 games of the Premier League season. Aston Villa ended in 7th place, are playing European football, ended up with 61 points overall. Emery was fantastic presiding over this team. They finished the season with 2-1 victories over Brighton and Spurs as well, and a 1-1 draw with Liverpool to end the season. Ollie Watkins, loving life under Unai. 13 of his 15 goals in the Premier League were scored under the new manager. XG on the season, they were mid-table. Goals for and against, 51, 46. We'll see if they can look a little bit better in those categories, but they're pragmatic and it turned into results. They brought in Pau Torres, Moussa Diaby, Yuri Tielemans. All seem like relatively good pickups at decent prices as well. Ashley Young, the only player of consequence who's gone out the door, and he's 39 years of age. Diego Carlos is also back in the team, missed all of last season with a serious injury, so he's like a new signing at center back as well. Only 18 goals scored away last season. That's going to be a bit of concern, especially going to Newcastle this weekend. Head-to-head, they played to a 3-3 draw in preseason, but last season, home wins for both and convincing ones. 3-0 for Villa, but at St. James's Park, Newcastle smashed Aston Villa 4-0 that day. The odds on Pinnacle, Newcastle to win minus 129, the draw at plus 290, and a Villa victory at plus 375. The handicap, the Asian handicap is set at 0.75. Newcastle minus 0.75 at plus 101, minus 111 the other way, and the total set at 2.75 with the over coming in at plus 105. Should be a good game. Two teams that have eyes on, even more improvement for this upcoming season. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very entertaining game to watch. It's a tough one for me to kind of get involved in from a betting perspective, though. I've got my thoughts on Newcastle. I think they'll have another good season. But this is Villa are everyone else's hot team. Everyone else is banging the Villa drum, and I'm kind of, I don't think they're going to be at the level required to challenge the likes of Newcastle, the rest of the top six effectively. So this is going to be a little bit of a watch it game for me, because I was kind of hoping Newcastle would be a slightly bigger price to win the game on the back of all the Villa hype. So the fact that we're getting -129, I would have liked it a little bit closer to even money. But I'm happy to just give it a bit of a watching brief. The goal line did interest me. I did have over 2.5 or both teams to score, one of them written down. But the price has just been hammered in. It's like -133 now for both teams to score. And given Newcastle's defensive record last season, Villa's attacking struggles away from home, that's something that I was hoping to get a bigger price on as well. So I think the market's kind of, has got this one fairly correct in terms of pricing, to the point where I don't see much value from my perspective anyway. So I'm happy to say no bet yet again.
Okay, I'm definitely making a play, and I'm one of those.
You're going to go Villa
individuals.
plus 0.75, aren't you?
I'm going. Yes, I am. I'm going Villa on the handicap at -111. It's moved out from -109. It's going to continue to shift, I guarantee, because if Newcastle wins by a goal, you get half your bet back. For me, that's worthwhile, because this game for me has draw written all over it. I don't want to play the outright draw. Villa can go on and win this game outright. I want to see what Newcastle looks like in this season where there's expectations, there's Champions League football for them. Look, Tonali's a good player. Perhaps he can bring out another gear to Guimaraes. I thought he was good enough as is last season. We'll see how much he improves the midfield and what it looks like in Premier League play. I like Ramsey, another year on for him, a really good young player at Villa. They have a combative midfield as well. They could cancel each other out. I wouldn't mind siding to the under, but the value isn't there. The value is with that play, Villa on the handicap. I'll take it at -111, a full play, Aston Villa on the handicap this weekend. I don't think they'll be starting the season with a bang. I think the game will be very low scoring, tight, cagey, could go either way. That's why I like that Villa play. Do you understand where I'm coming from here on this play?
Yes and no. Like I said, I don't really buy into the Villa hype. The underlying data last season for around Villa was very poor, and highlighted that they were very lucky to finish in the top 7. This
is Newcastle's able to take it up another gear, or at the very least replicate what they produced last season.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why they can't. I mean, they've kept everyone in place, really. The gaffer's there, all the players are there. If anything, they've strengthened their 11 by bringing Harvey Barnes in to play on the left-hand side instead of what would be Anthony Gordon. I think Newcastle are in a good spot. Like I'll be happy to be proven wrong if 10 games in things aren't going the way they are. But at this moment in time, I'm much more confident in what I'm going to see from Newcastle than I am Villa.
Fair enough.
And, people forget as well that Newcastle are in Champions League football, but Villa are also in Europe as well. So when you're looking at back in them top 6, top 4, just remember that they are in Europe in the Conference League, and Unai Emery is a guy who will literally completely ditch the Premier League or his league football and concentrate on European football. So just if you are looking at a pro Villa future, just be mindful that if they get to the quarterfinals of the Conference League, the Premier League will be hitting the backseat.
But now they have 4 centre backs that can play. The squad is clearly deeper than it was, and we'll see if they make any other moves. I think that Villa is more capable of doing that this year. Of course, Emery in cup competitions with Villarreal, with Sevilla, it's been unbelievable. Let's see if he can balance this in the Premier League. I think he's a brilliant manager. And I still think there's some value on Aston Villa future plays for this season. Perhaps call me a square if you will. I just like the makeup of their squad and the players that are coming in. And of course the manager as well. Let's move on to our final match of our feature 5. Let's move to Sunday, a 4:30 p.m. kickoff. And what a way to start the season. Could it be a bounce back year for one of these sides or potentially both? It's Chelsea and Liverpool from Stamford Bridge. It's Pochettino's turn to step up and see if he can solve the problems that Tuchel, Potter, and Lampard. It just got progressively worse, didn't it, over the course of the season for Chelsea, leading their way to a 12th place finish. It was incredible. 11, 11, and 16 on the season. 38, that's it, goals for, and 47 goals conceded. They finished behind Fulham and Palace last season. Aside that, under Todd Bowley, spent incredible sums of money, but it just didn't work. That's the best way of putting it, and it was embarrassing at times. They had the 15th most home points last season, just 25 points at home last season. In comes Nkuku. He's now out long-term with a knee injury. I was really high on this pickup. They actually signed him in January, and he came in, preseason looked good, and goes out through a knee injury. That's a significant loss. Nicholas Jackson's going to play up top. Sassy at the back. They bring in another goalkeeper in Sanchez. We'll see how it plays out. It's more notable who left the club, quite frankly. There's Havertz, Kovacic, Conte, Mount, Pulisic, Loftus-Cheek. Should I continue? Ampadu, Koulibaly, Mendy, Aubameyang, Azpilicueta, all out the door. Also, Fofana, the center back, he suffered a knee injury as well. He's out long-term as well, meaning that Disasi had to be brought in. And we'll see what else they need to do to solidify this team. The good news, at least to start the season, Chilwell and James both in from the start. Those were huge losses for this team last year, not really playing with either of them consistently. And for what it's worth under Pochettino, they went undefeated on the preseason. Doesn't matter. I'll let Jake tell you in a few moments' time. Liverpool, 5th place, but a late season run at least made it interesting. They didn't lose in their last 11 games of the Premier League season. 67 points overall. They had the second best expected goals at plus 80.77, but there were 12 in expected goals against, and none of us expect that to change anytime soon. They're wonderful in terms of playing attacking football. Defensively, still massive questions. In 5 preseason games, Liverpool scored 4, 4, 4, 4, and 3. And if you date it back to last season, they scored 4 in the last game of the season to Southampton as well. So they're scoring goals at will. Away from home, 6, 5, and 8, 29 goals scored, 30 against last season. Alexis McAllister comes in. Dominic Szoboszlai comes in as well. I like both those pickups, adding to a central midfield. In fairness, had nowhere near enough legs last season. Henderson, Fabinho, Firmino, Keita, Milner, and the Ox all go out of Liverpool. Head-to-head, Liverpool haven't lost to Chelsea in 6, but this is the craziest thing. The last 4 times they played, it's ended in a goalless draw. By the way, it's gone under 7 of those 8 games, 4 in a row. That's just wild to me that these two teams continue to play the goalless draws. The odds, Chelsea to win at plus 195. If you like a draw, it's plus 262. A Liverpool victory at plus 142. The handicap is set at 0.25, minus 0.25 for Liverpool, plus 0.25 for the home side. The total is set at 2.75. Tell me that you're going to make a goalless draw here, Jake. Just live dangerously, let the hair down, do something crazy here. I'm looking forward to this game because I think there's a lot of questions to be answered by both of these sides.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going goalless draw. I mean, it's a really interesting stat that it's happened 4 times in a row, but you have to take a bit of context. You know, Thomas Tuchel was the manager for 3 of those games, I think, and 2 of them were cup finals.
Cup finals,
generally a cager anyway. I think the other one was just after they'd sacked Graham Potter, I think Bruno was in charge last year for the Stamford Bridge game. So yeah, there's massive caveats to those 0-0s, and obviously you've now got a manager in Pochettino who's a much more attack-minded front foot coach than Tuchel is, and yeah, Liverpool look to be in a great place to kind of score at will again this season. I mean, their attack last season was brilliant in terms of underlying numbers. It was second best in the league, so it wasn't that was the problem. It was just the midfield and the lack of support for that defence. And yeah, the moves that they've made in terms of not only bringing in McAllister and Szoboszlai, but also getting rid of Henderson, Milner, Fabinho. Yeah. While you are losing experience, don't get me wrong, and that can be quite good for the dressing room, but you're getting rid of players who looked slow, looked old, looked past it, and were on massive wages. So it's a win-win all around, really, for the club. And it means that the likes of Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Stefan Bajcetic might be able to get more of a run in the team and develop themselves. So, I'm really excited about Liverpool. I think this is a really good time for Liverpool to play Chelsea.
Me too.
I I think Chelsea are, there's going to be a lot of teething issues to start the season because it's a massive change in terms of system, in terms of tactics, how Pochettino wants them to play. There's so many new players still. I mean, they signed most of them in January, but still, I mean, it takes longer than 6 months to get acquainted, and when you've had 3 managers in 6 months as well, that's going to make things a little bit more difficult. So, I think that this is a great spot for Liverpool to play Chelsea. I think if this was game week 10, I think we might have a different opinion if we'd seen that there's been some opportunity for Chelsea to kind of tie things together a little bit more and make some progress. And as you mentioned, there's some big injury issues as well at Chelsea, not only in the forward line but at the back as well, with obviously Fofana, who's a lengthy absence. Badia Chile is supposed to be out as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've got Levi Colwill, who was brilliant at Brighton, so it's a deep squad. The Diasisi that's come in as well, but I just think Liverpool are going to be an absolute handful in this game, and I think that this is a kind of almost not a purpose-built Klopp game, but I think that the way in which Pochettino plays with the high press, front foot, I think that the midfield Liverpool have now are a lot more press resistant than what they were last season. So McAllister's happy to take the ball in tight spaces with people around him, and he can bypass that press very well, and Szoboszlai can do the same. So I think that's something that will prove quite crucial if Chelsea go all out in the press, and Liverpool will be able to pick the way through it. I think Liverpool are the play. I wouldn't put anyone off backing them to win, just normal 1x2 market plus 142, but I'm going to take a little bit of extra security while the price is still available. Plus 0 is where I'm going, so draw no bet effectively, and we're getting minus 130 for that. So the handicap line did move from plus 0 to 0.25. I'm happy to take the plus 0 at a slightly shorter price with a bit of extra security. I'm going to make this a 1.5 unit play, so slightly bigger than the other plays. I think Liverpool are in a great spot.
Well, we look at this game the same way. Just Liverpool's attack, I think it has the potential of being scary good. I know they're another midfield player away, but I'm okay with what they have because they're playing to their identity this season. They're actually my favorite value play to go on and win the Premier League this season. So I'm backing Liverpool in this game. Chelsea, it remains to be seen. I think they'll be better. I think they have a proper manager, unlike Frank Lampard. I think some good things will happen. Midfield looks a little bit thin right now for Chelsea. I'm just going to go straight up on the Asian handicap. Liverpool minus 0.25 at a whopping plus 110. That's going to be a full play for me. I was tempted, and if it wasn't at plus 110, I was thinking Liverpool team total in the game over a goal and a half at plus 107. I wouldn't try to talk you out of making that bet as well. Again, this Liverpool team, I think they're going to just score goals for fun this season. But I'll stick with the spread. I'll have a little bit more juice than you're putting on this. And we'll see that if it reaps the rewards. Again, they can win outright, but if you're going to give me the cushion, if it's a draw, for me to only lose half my bet versus the plus 142 for a Liverpool outright win, I'm going to take the Asian handicap here. So I think we're both backing Liverpool in this game. We'll see how it plays out. And so, go ahead.
I was going to say, what's your stake on that one? Are you doing a flat unit?
Full bet, flat unit, full unit. Yeah. So just the 1/2 unit played for me. That was the first game on the under. Other than that, full plays across the board. So those are feature 5, all in the book. Let's shift our attention to the remaining 5 games of the weekend and go rapid fire for the rest. 15th place Bournemouth, an off-season of change, as they host 14th place West Ham, who have now finally started to wheel and deal a little bit. Bournemouth plus 179 to win, plus 504 for the draw, plus 165 for a West Ham victory. Do you have a play in this game?
Yeah, I'm taking Bournemouth plus 0 on the Asian handicap, so draw no bet. You're getting even money. West Ham, you say they're wheeling and dealing. They're basically funding Manchester United's next transfer move, aren't they? Scott
fully
McTominay
support it.
And Harry Maguire. That's what they're looking at.
And Ward Prowse, it's like, it's very Moisey. All these moves just scream David Moyes, don't they?
Moyes has got his way. There was a little bit of a standoff, wasn't there, in terms of how the money was going to be spent. Between him and the director of football, and it seems as though he's kind of managed to get the nod in terms of what he wants to bring in. But I think that Bournemouth are a team that quite a lot of people, including myself, are expecting quite big things from. I was very surprised to see them still third favourites for the drop. Iraola's a fantastic young coach. He's worked wonders at Rayo and Mirandes before that in this La Liga 2. So yeah, I think that they're in a very good spot to cause a bit of an upset. I guess it kind of is an upset because they're the outsiders, but I think, in my opinion anyway, the way in which both teams are heading into the weekend, then they should be favourites really. Just given everything that's going on off the field at West Ham, the fact they've not replaced Declan Rice, they've not even, at the minute, I think they've got a player. Is it the lad from Ajax? Is it Alcaraz or something like that?
Alvarez, decent
yeah.
player. I think that oftentimes, obviously, he comes from my neck of the world, comes from CONCACAF, plays from Mexico. Really good player. I think that perhaps his worth in people's eyes, pundits' eyes over here, is a little bit higher than he actually is. We'll see if he can make that transition. Tidy player, good player. Not like for like with Rice. I think he can be decent, but we'll see how good he is in the Premier League.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna get the paperwork over the line in time for him to play this weekend. But
I'm not banking on it.
So that leaves a massive hole effectively next to Souček in midfield. And yeah, like away from home last season, West Ham weren't great. Just in general, from an attacking perspective, didn't create many chances. And I think Bournemouth, the way in which they're going to set up, is going to be very front foot. They've got a lot of really exciting forward players.
Yeah.
Solanke, Ouattara, Justin Kluivert, Jayden Anthony. And the guy they've signed from France, the midfielder, is it Hamid Diallo? Very good player as well. So yeah, I think Bournemouth are going to kick things off with a win, and I think if it wasn't for Lopetegui already getting sacked or leaving or whatever, I think Moyes might have been the first man to lose his job, depending on what happens in this game, and obviously with the transfer thing. But given everything's kind of seems to have shaken out in a positive way for Moyes, I think he's going to get a little bit longer, but it seems like a good time to oppose West Ham.
Is the first manager sacked? That I guess that's already come through, and the season hasn't started. I mean, what a waste!
I know. I guess to be fair, over here the markets are next manager to be sacked, so technically it would have been rather than first. Yeah. I don't know.
Which I kind of predicted last week on the preview podcast, and we'll get to Wolves in a second. I'm high on Bournemouth. I think I have a future play over 38.5 points this season. I have the exact same play for you: a draw, no bet, even odds, a full play, Bournemouth. It shows you that some clubs owned by Americans can do the right thing, and they continue to make good decisions. Really, they do, and they're spending a little bit. I like this project, what's going on with Bournemouth right now. I like them in this game. I think West Ham will eventually be okay, but it could be a little bit of a shaky start to the season for them. And yeah, I'm on that play. Even money for a draw, no bet. I'll take that every day of the week. By the way, we don't chat about our plays before this podcast. It just sometimes they line up this way. 17th place from a season ago, Everton hosting 10th place Fulham. Everton at plus 122, the draw plus 247, plus 245 for the Fulham victory. What do you make of this game, and do you have a play?
No bet for me on this one. I'm happy to kind of see how they both shape up. I think Everton, they've got the makings of a very solid Dyche team that could potentially survive with more ease than they did last season. And Fulham, there's so many question marks around them, just around Mitrovic, whether he's going to be featuring at all, whether Marco Silva's still going to be knocking around in a few weeks' time. But yeah, in general, Fulham were a team that we liked to bet for overs last season. I don't see a reason why that shouldn't still be the case, given the fact that they are generally quite a front foot team. But this is one of the games where, away at Everton probably like to keep it to a 1-0 kind of scoreline. It's kind of a game where I would be looking for the unders, but I'm happy to sit this one out.
Oh, well, Marco Silva is still there. They played a lot of football without Mitrovic last season. I think Fulham has some really good players in their team. I think that they're still a little bit underrated here. What's Everton done? This team can't score goals. They bring Danjuma finally. Okay, when was the last time he played regular football? And Ashley Young, that's it. I'm not impressed with this Everton side. They held on and stayed in the Premier League by this much last season. Give me Fulham on the handicap, plus 0.25. If this game has a draw written all over it, if it's a 0-0, that's fine. You win half a play at minus 101. So I'll do a full play on Fulham on the handicap at plus 0.25. Fulham, by the way, haven't lost to Everton in their last 3. And Sheffield United against Crystal Palace. Sheffield United finished second place in the league championship last season. Palace finished 11th place. Roy Hodgson bringing new life to the team after Patrick Vieira left. Sheffield United plus 225 for a home win, plus 220 for the draw, plus 145 for a Palace victory. Do you have a play here?
Under.
No, it's under. Under.
That's better. Under 2.5 goals. The line is 2.25, but I'm going to take a shorter price on 2.5 because I think, I think that's the kind of safer play, if you like, the best way to get a win. Like Sheffield United, as I said before, a bit of a basket case club. They're selling loads of the best players. I mean, to put it into perspective, Iliman Ndiaye's left. He was the top scorer last season. James McAtee was the third top scorer last season. He was on loan. He's now gone back. Sander Berg, he looks like he's on the verge of joining Burnley. He was their 5th top scorer last season. And then you got Tommy Doyle, who was one of their higher assist players, makers, that was on loan again last season. That's not there. So it's a hell of a lot of goals have left the squad basically. And it's the same for Crystal Palace. Wilfred Zaha's gone, probably been their best player for a long period of time now. And Michael Olise, I don't think he's going to be ready for the start of the season. So
no.
2 of their best creative players from last season won't be in the side. Obviously, Berries, he finished the season red hot. And I fully expect him to kind of pick up where he left off. But this is a game where it's kind of a must not lose, if you like, for Sheffield United. Their upcoming schedule looks pretty tough, and a home game against a team that is effectively in the bottom 8 relegation, kind of the 8 teams we expect to get relegated. You can't really afford to lose this game, and I fully expect it to be quite a tight match. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a 0-0. If we did get 1-0 this weekend, it would be this one. So I'm going to make that a 1.5 unit play as well.
Wow, and that's under 2.25.
No, under 2.5 at minus 142. Yeah.
Minus 142. No play for me for all those reasons. I have no idea what to expect from Sheffield United. I think playing at home in this game, they'll be up for it. Their XG was the best in the league championship last year. Palace, no Zaha, potentially no Elise. I still think they're a decent enough side. I was tempted to play Palace on the handicap based upon the questions around Sheffield United. I'm just going to stay away and watch this one out. Let's move to Sunday, 2 p.m., should be a good game. Brentford and Spurs, plus 193 for a Brentford win, plus 141 if you want to back Spurs. The draw at plus 270. The total is set at 2.75. What do you make of this one, Jake?
I am taking over the goal line, but I'm not taking the 2.75. I'm going to take it a little bit lower again and take 2.5 at minus 140. So again, it's a slightly shorter price, but I am going to double my stake and make it a 2-unit play. So it's going to be my biggest bet of the weekend. I think this is very much a case of a rerun of the De Zerbi introduction, in the sense that you've got Ange Postecoglou coming into Tottenham, and he is just a genuinely attack-minded coach who will get his team playing front foot football from the very start. And I think at Tottenham he's got a squad in the forward areas anyway that can cause a lot of problems, even if Kane's not there. I mean, you've got Kulusevski, you've got Richarlison, you've got Son, you've got Maddison now as well as a potential front four, even if Kane isn't starting. But then you look at the other end of the pitch and it still looks extremely weak and still looks extremely gettable. And despite not having Ivan Toney, I still expect Brentford to cause a lot of problems for Tottenham, especially from set pieces. Last season Spurs really struggled from set pieces. Brentford were one of the better teams in terms of creating from the dead ball situation. And if you look at their home record last season, it was great. Underlying process, they averaged 1.8 expected goals for per home game last season, which is incredibly solid. I think this could be a bit of a ding-dong battle over 2.5. I could see it being covered by either or both. It could be a 3-3 kind of game. So I'm going to take over 2.5 at minus 140.
Yeah, I have 2 plays in this game. I like the over 2.75 at minus 111. Spurs conceded 38 goals away from home last season. And you're right, they haven't improved at the back. The goalkeeper, let's see what it looks like. Brentford beat them 3-1, then they played to a 2-2 draw last season. So both of those games were over. So over 2.75 at minus 111. But I'm also going to make a half play Brentford to win outright at plus 193. I don't think the Spurs team has solved their problems. We'll see what develops in the coming days about Harry Kane. we'll see what all of this looks like. I think nothing's going to be easy for Spurs here. I'm a little bit bullish in fading Spurs, just like I'm fading Arsenal. I have nothing against North London. Beautiful place, beautiful spot in the world. But I think Brentford, you're going to find some value in them not having Tony, but they do have some good attacking players in this team whose name isn't Ivan Tony. So, and I think their transfer dealings have been really good as well. I think they've actually strengthened in a very smart way, Brighton-esque, if you will. So Brentford at plus 193, a half play there. Let's lock in both those plays. And the final game of the weekend, well, one side has already changed their manager. Lopetegui out at Wolves, and now they travel to Old Trafford to take on Manchester United. A United victory plays at minus 301 on Pinnacle, the draw plus 475, and a Wolves victory at plus 834. Do you have a play for this final game of the weekend, Jake?
Yeah, I'm going to take Man United to win to nil in this game. I'm guessing that laugh means you've got the same play. It's plus 132. It's a full 1 unit for me. Won 15 of 19 last season at home. I only lost on the opening day against Brighton, did Manchester United. And yeah, Wolves are all over the place. They're in turmoil, aren't they? And Gary O'Neill's the man that's been tasked with kind of saving them this season. He did a good job at Bournemouth, in fairness to him, at the back end of last season, although the underlying data would paint a little bit of a different picture. And yeah, he inherits a Wolves team that were the worst attacking team in the league under Julian Lopetegui, just 0.9 expected goals for per game. So yeah, you've got basically a very blunt Wolves attack with a new manager who has around, what we're recording this on a Wednesday, so he's got about 5 days to work with the squad ahead of this match. So yeah, he's got his work cut out.
It's my favorite play of the week. It's my best bet. It's the value play of the week. United to win to nil at plus 132. These two sides have played to the under 9 out of 10 times. Last season, 2 victories for United, 2-0, 1-0. They're improved at the goalkeeping position for me. Onana coming in to replace De Gea, who won the Golden Glove, still does have a job, by the way. And Wolves away from home had the worst expected goals, 13.93. It's just, I just can't see it. This is my favorite bet of the week. Again, I wouldn't talk you out of playing the under 3 at minus 108. I'm really high on Manchester United this season, but I still have some questions where the actual goals are going to come from or who's going to be able to provide them. All sorts of good build-up play, good in transition, good team all around. Do they have enough goals in them? It's my only question. But for this weekend, for betting purposes, United to nil, good enough for me at plus 132. That's my value play of the week. Before we wrap things up, do you have a value play of the week or a favorite play or a best bet?
Yeah, our best bet is the Brentford Spurs overs. I think that's going to be a cracking game, end-to-end stuff, lots of chances I think we're going to see in that match. So I'm glad it's on telly.
All right. Not a problem here. In this country, we get each and every game when it's being played.
Yeah,
I have
you
a lot
love
of
rubbing that
football.
in.
I have a lot of football to watch this weekend, and it's begun. We're finally here. The new Premier League season is upon us. Remember our picks, all of them, our plays over the course of the season. They'll feature on all of Pinnacle's social media accounts, including Twitter or X. Andrew Beasley, our good buddy who jumps in from time to time, his expected points article is available on the Pinnacle website, as well as Pinnacle's Premier League betting predictions articles. You can find them all under betting resources. Follow along with Jake at Jake Oz, myself at Gareth Wheeler or Gareth.Wheeler, depending on where you follow. Good stuff. Best of luck this weekend. A lot of similar picks in the first week of the season. I'm not surprised. It's kind of the way that things played out last season, but I'm looking forward to getting in to those head-to-heads, which proved decisive in this guy's favor over the course of last season. Just
Yeah,
saying.
did we
Just
not?
saying,
Did we not?
Jake.
Did we not finish in a draw? Actually, did I
The
not
way
level
I
it up on the
remember
last
them, I
day?
think I had you
Yeah,
by one, but
I thought it
perhaps
was 3-3. I thought I got you on the last day, but we'll have to listen back and double check.
let's not do that. Let's look forward and not back. On behalf of Jake and everyone at Pinnacle, I am Gareth Wheeler, and this has been Match or Game Week 1 for EPL Insights.